Today, I'm going to be showing you how to make your very own medicinal oil using the folk method, and there's a giveaway. Stay tuned.
Vegan prepper. Vegan prepper.
First off, Survival Garden Seeds has teamed up with me on this video to do a giveaway of their ultimate medicinal herb collection seed pack. There are 36 heirloom seed packets in this collection. You could win your very own. I was very thrilled that they sent this to me. I'm even more thrilled that now I get to give one, or they're giving one, but I get to facilitate them giving one to one of you. And that makes me happier than anything. So I hope you win. Good luck. I'm putting some details on the screen, but ultimately you just have to click the link in the description box. You'll go to a page that'll ask for your name and for your email, and you'll be entered to win, and you'll be notified via email when you win. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into making a medicinal oil using the folk method. I'm going to be showing you how to make a medicinal oil using the folk method and some dried calendula flowers. So we're just basically going to be working with some dried calendula from my garden that I planted a couple of years ago. I still have so much left over that I didn't actually plant this last September. That is when I need to plant my calendula, but I'm using this today because I'm pretty sure that most of you, if you don't live in the Phoenix area, you're not living in an extreme zone like I do. I live in planting zone 9B. I'm pretty sure most of you are getting ready to actually plant this for your spring and summer gardens. And so I thought we would go ahead and use it today to form a medicinal oil that I will later make a video on how to make the salve from the oil. But let's go ahead and get started. It's a very simple thing. And then once we do the oil itself, I'll talk a little bit about calendula, harvesting it, and some things to keep in mind with your oils. Step one with the cold infused medicinal oil method, just the folk method, is to get herb into your jar. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Basically, we're going to be putting it in, leaving some headspace so that we have enough room to cover it then with a bunch of oil. So I like to pack it down just a bit, not with super rough or hard motions or whatever. Just pack it down a little bit to make sure that I'm getting as strong of a medicinal oil as possible. And so basically you're going to leave yourself an inch or two of headspace in the jar. I consider this up here is not really part of the jar for making your oils or whatever. And so I tend to, this is probably all I'm going to add. So it's not a specific measurement. You're just kind of eyeballing it based on where it is in your jar, which is, another really handy reason to use this is that you can then use pretty much any size jar you have. You don't have to make a full quart. In fact, I would recommend often not to make a full quart, at least, of a medicinal oil when you're not adding any like alcohol as a preservative. That's a possibility. You can look up how to create medicinal oils that will last longer and find instructions, but those end up, they become a bit more complicated. This is just a very simple method. I'm making this actually for me and my friend. She was wanting some calendula oil and I said I will make it. So I'm going to split this when I'm done. Otherwise, I might make more like a pint because the medicinal oils don't last a super long time. So you tend to want to make them in smaller batches. Be adding my oil now. This is just the Kirkland organic extra virgin olive oil. I get it from Costco. And so we're going to add this in. You can use pretty much any oil you want to use. You can tailor it to your desired result. Like for instance, you can make an absolutely beautiful rose infused oil, say, right? For like a beauty purpose, to put into some kind of an herbal moisturizer, some sort of really lovely herb like that. And then you could use jojoba oil instead, or almond oil instead of olive oil, and really tailor the preparation to the finished desired preparation that you want. And so now I basically will just come in here, although it looks like it did pretty well. Packing it made it not quite float too badly, but I just sort of will come in and poke that oil down through. It's almost like with canning, right? You try to make sure, sorry for the squeaking. That's horrible. Anyway, you try to make sure that you're getting a lot of those air bubbles out, and that it is as full of oil as possible. And so like I said, I tend to like to leave this up here free because one of the things that I'm going to be doing, and that is recommended when you're making your medicinal oils, is they say every single day, come shake it. I never remember to shake it every day, but I will shake it as often as I remember. So you want to leave some space for shaking. And the shaking is just to help the oil move through the constituents in the plants, and it just creates a stronger oil in the end. If you can remember to shake every day, that is ideal, but I never do, and my oils still turn out amazing. So anyway, oh gosh, I'm gonna stop doing that. Okay. Now we have our jar of herbs and oil. So the only difference between this and a powerful medicinal oil for your health and your healing and your beauty and whatever else you're going to use is basically time. So I have seen time recommendations from as little as 2 weeks to as long as 4 weeks. I tend to personally always do my oils for about 4 weeks. And so I just try to shake them as often as I can. Like I said, anytime I remember, and just be very careful that you have a jar that has an actual seal at the top, which is why I tend to prefer these canning type jars with the kind of original metal lid, because it forms a nice seal. Because if you end up with any oil seepage on a glass thing and you go to pick it up and want to shake it, you know, things just, I've never had any personal issues with that. But you know, I have felt the jar get a little oily at times when I was trying to, you know, say, do the eco thing and like reuse a jar. Just make sure that your jar has an incredibly good seal for these particular things. And so yeah, basically this is going to sit now for me personally for 4 weeks. Or another option that some people like to do is to do 2 weeks and then strain the oil out, and then fill your jar with fresh dry herbs, like more, and then pour that same oil right back in. And then you can top off with a little extra if you need to. And then in the end, you're going to end up with like a super strong medicinal oil. But I don't usually do that either. It's just let it sit there for 4 weeks and it turns out amazing. So ideally it'll go into a spot that's a bit warm. I'm going to probably put it over near my kettle, like my stove, in my kitchen. So I don't want this getting any direct heat by any means, but you just want a little bit of a warmer area. The slight warmth is going to help it extract a little better. The other advantage to that, of course, is it's going to be in an area that I frequent, and so I will be seeing it and remembering to shake it. So that is basically all there is to it. Now, if you were doing, say you had an official practice already, like I don't have an official practice yet, but hopefully someday, and you were making herbal preparations to sell, you may want to move away from the folk preparation methods and go into more exact methods where you're using weights and measuring the weight of the herb to the volume of the menstruum, which is, you know, whether that's the menstruum being the liquid that you use as your solvent to extract the herbal properties, whether your menstruum is water, oil, or alcohol, or vinegar, or I mean there's a lot of options, and so depending on the menstruum you'll have a different ratio, and then also depending on the herb you'll have a different weight of herb to menstruum volume that you would use in order to create some consistency in your finished products, which could be very important again if you're working in more of a clinical setting. For me right now, this is still home medicine, folk medicine. It works very well. I actually do use when I make my tinctures, I use the mathematical methods, but when I use my oils, I'm still just using the folk method because it's always worked, and that's just, it's easy, and we need something to be easy, right? I did say I was going to give some tips on calendula, growing, harvesting, and so when you plant it, just plant it when it's time, and it should probably just grow for you. It's a very easy plant to grow. I have had wild success with calendula, obviously. And so basically as it starts growing, what you're going to do once it has its first bloom, it's going to feel like it takes absolutely forever for it to have its first bloom. And then when it finally does, you're going to like, it's going to be kind of this little plant. It's just be like this little innocuous looking little thing. And you're like, gosh, how am I ever going to get enough calendula to do something like this, you know? Or to give away, like the thing I do with this, I give away almost every year over a gallon of it to one of my other friends who makes soap. and she makes calendula soap. and I end up still with so much left over with only 3 or 4 calendula plants in my yard. Because basically just what you do most mornings before the sun gets too high, you go out and just sort of pinch the flowers off right underneath the base as soon as they've bloomed. Or I'll also pinch off, say, a bud that looks very well developed with petals and everything. You'll see what I'm talking about. There will be some that are just pure green, so they haven't quite developed yet. You don't want to pick those, but I will pick really well developed buds as well as full flowers off of my calendula plants almost every single morning. And the more you pick, the more the calendula will produce, the bigger those bushes will get. You will end up with these giant bushes of calendula, and it will become a real task to keep up on picking off the blooms every morning. And eventually you won't be able to do it, and it will just start going to seed. And that's fine too, because then you'll collect the seeds and you'll get to plant next year. Or you will end up with a situation like I have in my yard where the calendula will just come up all by itself because the seed heads will fall off. And it's a beautiful thing. Calendula is one of my favorite plants. I have a really amazing relationship with this plant. And I know it sounds funny. I used to hear herbalists talk like that, and I thought, gosh, that sounds weird, but I'm beginning to understand what they're talking about. Just the fact with calendula, like the more you take, the more it gives. I don't know. There's just something so beautiful about that. And it's just like the bounty of nature, the abundance that God has built into nature. It's just, I don't know, something kind of beautiful. I understand that it's not all, fairies and unicorns out there. There's like some dark stuff out there too, but like you work with like herbal plants specifically, especially considering how powerful some of the most powerful plants are essentially weeds. You try as hard as you can to get rid of them and they will not go away. And then it turns out that those are the things that heal and help us almost the most. It's like God built it so that we could not destroy them because he knew we would need them so much. So like nettles, dandelion, yarrow, just all kinds of weeds that you can think of that are so helpful to the human body. And I don't know if calendula really counts as a weed, but it's also just a resilient, wonderful little plant. And hopefully you have success growing if you're planting. Hopefully you got something good out of that video. Look in about 4 weeks for me to take this, well, I guess half of it, because half of it is going to go to my friend. And I'm going to take about half of this and turn it into a salve, and then you'll learn how to make your own herbal salves. And so, yeah, look for that in about 4 weeks, and good luck on the giveaway. I genuinely hope that you win. And all of that information, clicking down there below, there's also a link that you can follow to go to Survival Garden Seeds and poke around and look at their seeds. And they make some really good stuff. So I encourage you to go check it out. And as always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys next time. Bye. Maybe? Bye? Okay, bye for real this time.